Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast, where we dive into the tough stuff and try to find the humor in the hot mess of being an adult child. Join me as we peel back the layers on growing up in dysfunction, navigating substance abuse, mental health challenges, and everything in between. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Becoming Sound podcast. I am Krista, your host, and if you are new here, welcome. So today, my guest is Jalene Murphy. She is an Alberta girl like me, and she is an author and a mental health advocate. And I just recently read her book. Modern Day Courage is her first book born of a desire to share her experience with the world. She covers topics of sexual affirmation, self-love, divorce, and mental health while highlighting the power of courage, gritty determination, and definitely hope. Jalene shares her most intimate thoughts and feelings about shedding layers of fear around the Catholic Church, guilt and shame, and dismantling perfectionism. That is right up my alley, so I'm sure it's going to be a great conversation. And her goal is to work as an advocate for mental health and dedicate more and more time to public speaking and writing. And I am so excited to have her here today. So let's get started with Jalene. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I've been waiting for this interview because we have met a couple times
Yes.
and I've read your book twice, actually.
Thank you.
I had so many questions. So, but before we get into that, I really just want to know a little bit about you. You're in Edmonton right now?
I live and work in downtown Edmonton, which I love.
Okay, perfect. And you are a world traveler, so nothing gets me more excited than talking about travel a little bit. Do you still
Yes, I
work in the
have
travel
for
industry?
24 years at the same
Oh,
company.
wow. Good for
Yes,
you.
yes,
That's
yes.
awesome. So tell me, where is the most incredible place you've ever been? Like
Well, I
what's
won't
one of your
answer it
most
that way.
favorite?
And I won't, I'll say I'll give you my top four. And for
Okay.
no particular reason, but for all reasons that have touched me in different ways. So,
Okay.
first of all, Paris in the spring, Turkey, Antarctica, and Japan.
Oh, wow. Wow. What give me just a little insight on Antarctica, because I know other people who've been there, and it's kind of hard to describe.
Well, it is. It is that magical, majestic, regal, vast, expansive, and it's hard to capture that in a photograph, in a video. I think it's something that you can only actually experience. And I was
Wow.
thankful in 2019. I talked 17 people from of my clients to come with me to Antarctica, and we did, and it was just a trip of a lifetime to be in that um, the quietness in nature, in exploring,
Mhm.
and to be surrounded by water and ice. And it's not as cold as people think, honestly. For Canadians, it was like +5 to -2. So
Oh,
it's
not
not,
bad.
it's very manageable. But if
Yeah.
you ever have a chance to go, I would encourage it. I know it's not cheap at all, but it's one of those things where if you can afford it and have the time and the capacity, I would encourage
Mhm.
anyone to go because it's just a really beautiful destination. And pick a ship with under 200 passengers. I will say that as a
Oh,
travel
okay.
agent.
Yeah. You know what scares me the most actually is that it's a specific passage. You
Oh, the
probably get
Drake
this a lot.
Passage.
The
Yes,
which?
the Drake Passage. It's
The Drake
once you
Passage.
leave.
That's the only thing that keeps me away. I'm not a big ship person. I'm not a
Oh,
cruise
okay.
person. So, but some of the video footage and the pictures of that passage, yeah, just
It's not all
really put it.
scary, and every
I know.
passage is different. So on
Yeah.
the way down, half of my clients were a little bit green in the gills, and on the way
Yeah.
home, it was a very clear sailing. And I didn't get sick at all. I mean, I love that motion. I thought it was. I mean, I love being on the water, and I love adventure.
Yeah.
So, for the right person, and if you have enough patches, I think you'd be okay.
That's great. I love travel too. And it's just so exciting to see other cultures, like to be
For sure.
immersed in a completely different culture than our own. You
Sure.
learn
Yeah.
so much about
It's a
yourself and Yeah.
You get a worldly education and I think a very global perspective, I think, when you travel. And I think that's why I love it, and I'm so thankful that all of my clients love it. And I encourage my nieces and nephews to travel because I said, you know what, you got to see the world and see how people live and think and breathe and eat, and because it just opens your eyes and it opens your heart. And I think
Yeah.
we all need to keep learning. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. For sure. For sure. Okay. Before we get into your book, because there's a quote I want to read from your book that I think is kind of universal. But tell me a little bit about your upbringing and kind of who Jaylene was during that time.
Hmm. Okay, good question. So I was raised in a small prairie town in Wetaskiwin, and
Yep.
you have to think this is the '80s, before internet, before you know phones were in your pocket, and I was raised in a very Catholic family. I went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic church. I was pretty much immersed in that, and even getting married. I could not get married outside the Catholic Church. It was not possible. So, to give you an understanding of how entrenched I was in that religion, which I have left the Catholic Church altogether.
Okay.
Um, but I very much was, I don't want to use the word brainwash, but I it was very hard to tear myself away from that when it no longer served me. And
Yeah. It's
I,
pretty deep beliefs. It's very ingrained for sure.
yeah, like when you're told you're going to hell if you sleep with your boyfriend, like, and I actually believed that. And that was,
Mhm.
it took a lot for me to unbelieve that. Um, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. It's just not something where it served my body, it served the understanding of myself, and I'm
Mhm.
so thankful that I have left religion, and, I'm still spiritual, but, I'm not religious, and I find my life just way more fruitful and open and expansive because I don't follow those beliefs anymore.
Mhm. For thanks for sharing that for sure. That's it's a tough one for a lot of people. It really programs your psyche
Oh, it does.
and and regardless of whether it's right or wrong or other beliefs, it's a hard thing
Mhm.
to understand for a lot of people. So let's talk a little bit about the perfectionism, and because that's always so interesting to me because I have the same, let's call it condition. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, chapter 3, just so for people that haven't read the book, chapter 3 is where I set up a boxing match against me and perfectionism. And so the kind of the broader scope of that is that I decided not to clothes shop for an entire year, which
Oh, wow.
I loved clothes shopping and I loved the way I looked, and I I thought, when I was clothes shopping, it was enjoyable and it brought me really great comments, and it just made me feel good. So, what's the harm in that? And so when I first started, and I didn't start the year off thinking I'm battling perfectionism. No, I was saving for Antarctica. So the goal was money
Mm,
orientated. I looked at my credit cards and realized, oh, I spent a lot of money on shopping. So what if I cancel shopping and I really focus on saving for Antarctica? So I did that. And it wasn't until about September, so 9 months in of no shopping, did I really actually come to understand that I was actually battling perfectionism, and I relied on people to give me great comments, and I really needed to be validated from the outside, which is not a good spot to be living in because you have to validate yourself from the inside. You're the only
mhm.
one that can really actually do that for yourself. And so when I started to realize that, and it was actually pretty gross. I was like, "Wow, Jay, like, where's your self-esteem?" Because that
Mhm.
was really, just an awakening, just an understanding of myself. And that led me to dig into myself even more. And a lot of that is tied to shame, which is also really hard to bring yourself out of and come back into light. And so
Mhm.
it was a continuous thread that I had to keep pulling until I finally got to like the foundation of it. And then with understanding that, I need to work on myself versus buying clothes. That year changed how I shop, and it changed how I view myself. And
Mhm.
that was a big year for myself of that 2017 was a big kind of wow, Jeline, this is something you need to work on within yourself, but also something that I was really proud of. Like you know, chapter 3, I kicked perfectionism's ass. Like I really changed how I interacted and I changed the rules. Cuz you're not going to beat perfectionism. Like the way you keep doing something, if you
Yeah.
are keep doing the same thing and trying to think that you're going to win, you're not going to win. She's a slimy bitch.
No kidding. Oh my
She's
goodness.
insidious and she is smart and she will get you if you keep playing the same game. So
Yeah.
you need to change the game in order to get a different result. And I did. And I'm so glad I did because now I can see her coming from a mile away. And I'm like, I've unsubscribed. I've just,
Mhm.
I know that, you know, I see it in other ways in the world with other people, and I'm like, you gotta you gotta change the way you approach it because
Mhm.
it's that's the only way that you're gonna win is
Yeah.
how I'm gonna say it. And I think the more you understand yourself, the more you'll be able to recognize it because it doesn't come up and say, "Hi, I'm perfectionism." Here I am. No, it's just so elusive and it just kind of comes
Mhm.
up and it just kind of tears you down. And
Yeah.
you can work with it in different ways. And then when it comes up, just be like, "Oh, welcome, but I don't really need you." And it changes, but it's a battle.
Mhm. Well, and
It
I
was
think one of the biggest gifts is awareness, right? Because once you're aware of it, you it's really hard to go back without having to like, call yourself out a lot on that stuff. So I think that's one of the biggest too. And I think perfectionism keeps us from being vulnerable. It really builds a wall and you can't really shine your authentic self when you're hiding behind everyone else's approval of what you do, how you look, all of that stuff. So, yeah.
yeah.
So,
And I
congrats
think
on that.
yeah, and I think also perfectionism, and I hate to say it, but I think it kept me in my marriage longer than it should have because I didn't
Hmm.
want to be a divorcee. I didn't want to let my partner down. I didn't want to, you know, seem like I wasn't the perfect wife. And
Yeah.
that's I mean, I look at it at that former part of myself and I'm cradling that part of myself because, at one point I lived that. And now,
Hmm.
moving forward, I've transitioned and now, I can look at that part of self and be like, it's okay because now we're not
Yeah.
there and we're in a different spot.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's a work in progress too. Like you catch yourself. Like you said,
Always.
it's kind of insidious. You just catch yourself every time you feel that slipping in. And that's kind of how I view it too now is mine wasn't in maybe clothes shopping, but cleaning and like the
Oh,
appearance of my life being organized and you know what I mean? And underneath it was chaotic. And now I'm even though I like to clean, I like my house is not anywhere near that anymore, but I notice it right away. It's like you
yeah.
that awareness doesn't go away, and if you keep working at it, you can
Hmm.
you can change, right? So there's
Yeah.
something I
You
want to ask
can
you about that.
change.
We'll come back to it after because I know you're doing something currently on that. So we'll talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about your book.
Okay.
This is Modern Day Courage. And
Yes.
I want to read because when I started reading this, the very first line in the introduction was like, oh, well, if that isn't a universal truth for especially a lot of women, but I think everyone. And it says, taking the necessary steps to find your true self and live authentically can be scary. No, let me rephrase that. It can be utterly terrifying. And I read that and I'm like, hell yes. Been there. When you're seeking authenticity and really trying to learn who you are, it is really terrifying because you've built this person for everyone else to see that might not be who you really are in some ways. So let's get into talking about your book. What does modern day courage mean to you?
That's a good question. And I'll answer it this way. The modern day part comes from the fact that as a woman, right at this time in Canada, I have the choice. I have the freedom. I have a job. I can write freely. I can be a gay woman. I can do all of this freely in this modern world. And you still have to have courage in order to choose those things. But I look
Uh-huh.
back at my Babangito and my grandma and grandpa, or my, great um, grandma, who was married to an alcoholic and had 8 kids and had to stay with him because she couldn't get off the farm. She couldn't just leave her family. She couldn't just, you know, at that time as a woman, she had limitations. She
Yeah.
did, just how society was at that time. So she was courageous in the fact that, she did the best she could with what she had, and that was courageous. That was gritty. So I would say that, right now, living where I am living, in a modern day where as a woman, I have my own job, I have my own place, I buy my own groceries, like I'm self-sufficient and I support myself as a woman. So
Right.
the modern day part is just I'm thankful that I live where I live and I can have the lifestyle that I do because I know in other parts of the world, my life is impossible. I would be killed. I know that. And I don't take, you know, where I am for granted because if I lived in a different part of the world, I couldn't have written this. I couldn't
That's
have.
right.
And
Yeah.
so I am thankful that I live in a place where I can do all these things. And even though I live in this modern world, I still had to have the courage to take the steps to find out, to go to that foundational self,
Hmm.
to actually break down, all the walls that I built and made this little house of who Jaylene was. And I enjoyed certain aspects of who Jaylene was. It's not like I, wasn't enjoying my life in some ways, but it wasn't, again, through that awareness, it wasn't who I truly was. And so, in order to break down to the foundation, and that's where, in the book, when I write, as you said, that introduction, taking the necessary steps to find your true self and live authentically can be scary. Well, no, it was terrifying because I had to, you know get divorced, I had to change identities, I had to do all of these things which were really hard. So
Yeah.
they're
It's like
not
systematically dismantling who you are almost.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. Scary for anyone, even someone who, and I want you to tell us about your story, but even someone who isn't going from changing their sexual identity or going from understanding what they thought they were to understanding who they really are. Do you know what I mean? This happens all across the board. It is really scary to change what you've built up over the years and then to start almost like a remembering of who you really are. And now how do you present that to the world? How do you change all that in front of your family and your friends and what does that look like? So
Well,
tell us a little bit about your journey and what that looks like for you.
I would just want to share that if someone is looking at change, and it's change in whatever capacity that looks like, I honestly think that baby steps, when people say, "Oh, rip the band-aid off and do it quick," and I don't know. That didn't work for my nervous system. I'm like, I don't think, it is
Yeah.
so overwhelming that I honestly
Mhm.
think the baby steps and building or shaping a new identity, whether it's, now I'm moving to a different part of the world and now I'm creating this new identity of, now I'm a foreigner or now, whatever it is, it's still something that A requires courage and B, it baby steps. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's, I think, one thing about the book, and I hope people can take away from it. Took me 10 years to get myself out of the closet. Like it took me from 30 years old, from when I had that experience in Turkey, until I was 40 and closed my heterosexual marriage. It took 10 years to understand that I was no longer a, a heterosexual woman. And,
Mhm.
to unravel that all and to gain the understanding and the confidence within self was, again, it takes time. Like, I remember being in a coffee shop and I'm like, I can't wait to take my first girlfriend here. Like, to actually say that, to come out of my mouth. I mean, it was so empowering because I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is actually who I am. And you know, I'm excited to be who I am because
Mhm.
I deserve to be loved for who I am. And, the right people are going to love you for who you are. They are. And if they aren't, then they aren't your people.
Yeah, beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. Regardless of who you are, who you think you are, who you want to be, um, the right people will love who you really are. And that's what's important. And
Mhm,
everything else can literally just fall away as it will eventually, right? So thank
mhm.
you for sharing that. I have a question for you. So you started out in a heterosexual marriage, and was there signs and inklings to you earlier in your life?
No, none.
None. Do you
Nope.
think that the religion played a big part of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing, and again, I go back to, I was in a very small town. You were taught if you were gay, you were going to hell. Um, I wasn't around, queer gay people. I just didn't know anyone, that was
Mhm.
out of the closet. Maybe if I lived in a bigger center or um, I had a gay aunt or I don't know, maybe something. But when you are, you know, when you're given the same message the whole time, um, uh, uh, I, no, I didn't, I didn't question it. When you're told, by the Catholic Church that, you'll marry a man and you can't sleep with a man before you get married and all of that sort of stuff. And I was very much a perfectionist and a rule follower and blah, blah, blah. You
Yeah.
don't even explore. Like, if I maybe was kissing a girl or actually touched a girl before that, then maybe that understanding of myself would have come earlier. But
Mhm.
again, I didn't have the opportunity because I just believed X, Y, and Z. And I married a very caring and loving husband. And he was the first man that I slept with at 20. And I got married to him at 24. And, that awakening and unraveling didn't really come until my late 20s. And then, we agreed that while I was traveling, if I met a girl, I could be with her. And that happened when I was at 30. And then and I was with her and then I came back home and I was kind of devastated, but I couldn't figure out why. And then I tracked her down a couple of years later and my husband put me on a plane. Flew to Istanbul to see her again and it brought up those exact same feelings. But at that time though, I just thought it was her. I didn't
Mm.
think it was like, Jay, you actually like girls. No, no. again, that awareness. So, and it wasn't until, so that was about 32, 33. So it wasn't until 38, and I write about this in the book. It wasn't until 38 years old that I was on a beach in Kelowna and I had that epiphany of like, wow, Jay, I think you like girls. And
Um,
that understanding of self then really flipped a switch for me, because now that made
mhm,
sense of like, why am I not connecting to my husband in a sexual way that I have in the past and I've enjoyed? And now it just doesn't feel the same. Like that was
mhm.
a connection that made sense, but it didn't go all the way back to childhood. No,
Okay.
I would say it took time to understand that of myself. But
Mhm.
I will say that once I was with a woman, I felt like I was at home.
Mm,
I felt that I was coming home. And
yeah.
I
I
don't
think
know
that's
how
where I
else
got
to
the
say it.
remembering piece from, because when you
Yes.
explained it that way in your book, to me that felt like you when you feel like you're coming home finally, it feels like a remembering that maybe you didn't have that before, but maybe a little woo woo too. I think that, yeah, you're remembering something about yourself and who you really authentically are. And
Yeah.
and that
And your
stems,
body knows. Like
yeah.
your body is so smart. Like your brain,
Mhm.
yes, it has its place, but nothing makes when you start tuning into your body and understanding your body and listening to your body and trusting your body, my God, it's going to take you far, because it's just so smart.
No
So
kidding. I
smart.
mean, our brains serve a purpose, but let's be real, they're big fat liars most of the time. So,
Yeah. They
but your
lie to you
body
all
never
the time.
lies. Your body never lies. It doesn't have the capacity to do that. And so I
No.
I wholeheartedly agree. When you tune in, you will learn a lot about yourself.
Hmm.
And that kind of awareness, you can't turn back once you
No.
start. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. It would
That's
be
awesome.
detrimental to do so.
Yeah, 100%. So something else came up for you when you were going through this part of transitioning and understanding and coming back home to yourself that was very traumatic, and it's bullying. And
Yeah.
can you talk about that? Because I think it's so important, and especially for the audience that I cater to sometimes, when you're a young person, whether you're struggling with sexual identity or bullying or drugs and alcohol in the home, or whatever kind of childhood trauma you are struggling from, it all matters. First of all, one thing is
Hmm.
not more important and makes you less or more of a victim than something else.
Hmm.
And I was bullied as well. So that really like hit a nerve for me.
Oh,
And I want you to talk a little bit about that, because it really impacts kids so incredibly profoundly.
yeah. And I think we're just coming to understand, first of all, how traumatic it is.
Hmm.
And I'm glad we're doing things, I'm glad we're talking about mental health more. I'm glad we're talking about, Pink Shirt Day. And I'm
Hmm.
glad we're having these conversations and bringing this into the light, because it is something that, um, so I was bullied in grade 5 and grade 6. I was a small girl. I was a flat chested girl, and I was bugged by boys because of it. And, I did my best at the time. I stood up for myself. I grew up with 4 brothers, so I'm one sister. So I know how to stand up for myself. I said things back to them, and, I was tough. And it wasn't until probably 38 years old that this started to um, come back into my life in a more profound way. And so, yes, as my marriage was unraveling and I was trying to figure out my identity, and this trauma part, which I come to understand and read and learn about, because I never thought I had trauma. I mean, I grew up in a very safe, caring environment. Why would I have that?
Yeah,
So, and denial is a strong. Ooh, denial keeps you very safe for a little while.
it sure
Um
does.
but uh again, at the time, I had to, under my therapist's guidance, she told me I had to move out. And not that my husband, people need to know my husband was very safe. He's very kind, very loving. I mean, I dedicate the book to him. I mean, he's the most amazing human. And I'm so glad I got to be in his life for so long.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I had to move out and I had to learn and heal and really work on, you know, becoming whole again. And what I mean by that is, um, like for instance, during that period of my time when I moved out, my thumb froze and I had to work with a roller to get it back just because of the stress. And he couldn't work around my chest area. Like I wouldn't allow him to go to that area. And
Right.
I knew within myself that I wanted complete freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I mean by becoming whole. I went to Victoria and I worked with a somatic sex expert twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with her so she could, I could get a massage all the way down through the front of my body. And I wasn't cringy. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't anything. And I became whole again in that aspect by having working with her and challenging those edges within myself. And
Huh.
I wanted that for myself. I made a commitment to myself to do that. And I I want full freedom in my life, within myself, within my body. And I love therapy. Don't get me wrong. That's very helpful. But
Yeah.
I just knew that I needed something more and I needed to work with someone that I could work through touch and come to a different place within myself, within my body. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
glad I did because now when I go for rolfing, it's okay. Like I don't
Yeah.
feel ashamed, I don't feel awkward, I don't feel anything. And um but again, it's baby steps. I can't stress the power of the baby step and being committed
Mm.
to healing because we all need to do it. If we want to have peace on the earth, it's got to start with us. And I know
Yes.
it sounds a little bit too big and too scary or whatever, but we're part of it. We're part of this world and we need to do our own part. And
Uh-huh.
um I think that's also why I wrote the book. I wanted to help other people know that they can do it. Yes, their path is going to look maybe a little bit different than mine,
Uh-huh.
but courage is universal and anyone can use it. And um I just wanted to be a light for others to know that they have the strength to do it and to know that they're not alone because it can feel very lonely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I thank you. I love how you put that. And I think you brought up a very important point about the baby steps. So when you start to dive into healing in any capacity, one thing can come up and you're like, okay, maybe I need to address that. You're really opening yourself up to all the stuff that has accumulated. There could be multiple traumas. There could be just stuff that you didn't realize you were holding on to in your body. I love therapy too, but they need to work cohesively together because your body holds on to things that your mind does not. So I think it's important when you start going on this journey that it is in baby steps because there are things in there that will need to come out. But if they come out all at once, it can be very overwhelming and scary for people. And
Yeah.
and that's how people close themselves back off because they just get overwhelmed. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I love how you put that. And it's such an important point.
Hmm.
So, thank you. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about something that you said about your husband, because
Hmm.
as I'm reading through your book, I realize that this is the exception, not the norm, unfortunately, but it is so beautiful in your relationship with your now ex-husband. But
Yeah. My former
um,
husband.
yeah, like I'm telling you, I don't know a lot of men who would stand up in that kind of space and hold space for a woman while she's going through this. It's terrifying. A lot of men aren't equipped. Let's be real, they're not equipped to handle this kind of thing, let alone show complete and utter grace.
Mm.
So I just I don't know if you want to talk more about that, but um, I think you guys had a pretty amazing relationship for that
Yeah.
to come about, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
incredible.
I married him for a reason.
Yeah.
I always thought he was very patient and understanding and kind. And I mean, he agreed to marry me in the Catholic Church and he wasn't even Catholic. Like, just to show you
Mhm.
how much he really loved me.
Yeah.
And throughout, I'm gonna call it the unraveling of my sexuality and coming to understand who I was, I
Mhm.
never hid anything from him. I shared with him. Um, he was supportive. I mean, when I finally found the girl in Turkey again, like he took me to the airport, like he
Mhm.
he supported me unconditionally.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why it was really hard to ask for a divorce because, you know, he I know he said, you could have a girlfriend and, we could stay together and, just stay married. But I also knew even with that, I I just needed to do this on my own. I
Yeah.
needed to break free to be able to go down that rabbit hole and to find the foundation of, you know, who Jalene Murphy is. And as scary, that's why I say it's terrifying because, you
Mhm.
know, you do have to, well, you don't have to. You, you can choose not to, but if you choose to, um, do that, you're going to have to give up a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's the terrifying part because I did have to ask for a divorce.
Yeah.
And I did have to give away security and to, you know, give up my best friend because I wasn't after I asked for a divorce. It was probably 5 years it took for him to come back. He's back in my life now as a friend, and it's really
Aw,
special.
that's lovely.
But I knew when I asked for a divorce, I knew I was gonna lose my best friend.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, very painful.
Yeah.
So,
Understandably, for sure. It's definitely it's definitely a journey where, yeah, you do lose some things along the way for sure. And I'm really happy that you guys have a friendship and today. So that's beautiful. Um, so before we wrap up, and thank you
yes.
so much for being so vulnerable and talking openly about this, because I think it's so important for other people to understand. And if they're going through a very similar situation and they're questioning their sexual identity at whatever age that is, that it's important to explore that and to have support and someone who can hold space for you and
Even if it's just one person,
yeah, just
even if
one
it's just
person
one
where you feel
person that,
that's right.
that you can go and talk to and, that
Hmm.
you can say, "This is how I'm feeling,"
Yeah,
just to have that really makes a difference, really
yeah.
makes a difference.
100% it does. So, thank you for sharing that. Uh, so I want to talk about something that you're doing now. So I just saw this on your Instagram
Yeah.
and I love this little challenge. And this is something a little more lighthearted, but, um, uh, so you are doing like, I'm sorry, I know it's a challenge. It is
Yeah.
has to do with perfectionism and it goes back to your chapter 3. So I absolutely love this because it also is just baby steps. So
It's baby steps.
explain to us what kind of challenge you're having right now.
So it's we're on day 11. So it's just a 15-day challenge. And so it's a breaking patterns and changing patterns challenge. So I do a liver cleanse every fall, and
Mhm.
that's my breaking patterns because I give up sugar, gluten, caffeine. Although I'm not drinking this year, so that's a moot point. But no meat, no dairy, just clean eating, getting back giving back to the body what it always gives to me. And so I do it every year. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just I asked the girls at work if they want to do it. They said no. So then I went to the Instagram and I said, okay, people, does anyone want to join the journey with me?
Yeah.
And I have two little joiners, and
Aw,
one I think has given up sugary treats, and the other one has decided to include 30 minutes of walking every day. So
nice.
again, it's nothing, earth shattering. And it's just about, just stopping and saying, okay, I do this automatically. How do I practice awareness? And how do I bring some understanding of myself instead of just mindlessly eating or mindlessly, putting a sugar treat in your mouth or,
Yeah.
making yourself get off the couch and going for a walk. So
Yeah.
it's really, um, it's just, it's just being curious. And I think that curiosity, I mean, I am a curious person by nature, but just kind of, again, getting into yourself and getting into your body and seeing how,
Mhm.
oh, is this sugar making me feel good or is it making me feel bad or whatever it is? And it's lighthearted, and it's just something that you can do that's a challenge, but it's not going to overwhelm you. And it's just fun. I wanted to just, honestly, I didn't want to do something by myself. So I was like, okay.
Well, that's awesome. I hope more people join you in the future too, and I will definitely. I love little challenges like this because you know what, and you said it's not earth shattering, but you know what, for someone it just might be. So
Yeah.
you never know what little tiny thing that you get curious about or that you want to change or just inspire in someone else to
Yeah.
change that you might be changing their whole life. You don't know, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I love that.
it's interesting because when I started my no drinking challenge this year, I have two caveats with the no drinking challenge, but I have a client who decided that, yeah, I'm going to give up drinking as well. And he's done it. He said he went to Spain, so he had a couple of weeks off, which I'm like, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Just, work with yourself. But yeah, he's done the whole year minus his one caveat, and
Yeah.
it's just been awesome to see, you know, it's just awesome to see their understanding of themselves because he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get a racing heart. And he's like, I just wake up clearer. And
Mhm.
again, he's just learning to understand himself a little more.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most exciting part because you're your best teacher.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the funny thing is we already have all the answers. We
Yeah.
do.
We just have to start trusting ourselves
Exactly. You
more.
just got to trust yourself, you know? I had a coach once that said, if if there wasn't a solution, there wouldn't be the problem. Right?
Oh, that's
So no
good.
matter what problems you have, there is a solution to everything. And I really believe that if you just tap into your own curiosity and your own wisdom, you will be able to come up with your own solutions, right? You
Mhm.
may need some support for sure, right?
Yes.
Or some
Yeah.
help or some extra knowledge, but we
Yeah.
really just have the answers to our own stuff. And I think your book, Modern Day Courage, and that whole journey that you went on is really just about coming back to yourself and listening, right? And
Mhm.
and you did come up with your own solutions and your own answers to all the stuff you were seeking. So absolutely love that. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And please go get the book. It's not a long read. Oh, I see you have a hard copy. But Jaylene gifted this to me, so I was very excited. And very grateful. And yeah, go grab the book. What are you up to now, and where can people find you if they want to reach out?
So I think I think Instagram is my favorite platform, so at Jalene Murphy, that's the one that I'm most active on. I have Facebook and LinkedIn as well, and it's always just Jalene Murphy. It's just
Okay.
my name, and, but I always love to hear from people, and I am always wanting to support or show up or whatever you're sort of interested in or anything that's, real and of the heart, I'm all about because, it's just something community is key, and
Yes.
we need to have community. We need others to show up for one another, and we need to, be honest of where we truly are. And, if you need support, you know, let me know. Like I I just I just want people to know that they're not alone. I cannot stress that enough because yes, I might not or we might not understand your exact journey. Um, but let me tell you, when you have just like I said, even that one person that you can trust and you can confide in and you can say, I'm not alone, that is a game changer. And I think that especially for men, um, I think that is stacked against you. And I want
Yes.
to say that that is a falsehood. Um, Men are should not suck it up or, not feel or be a man. That is bullshit. And
Yeah.
we need to put an end to that. And for the men that are out there that are listening, you need to know that, we're here. Like Krista, you're amazing and, a great advocate for mental health. And we just have to start being real with one another and honest. And, I just want to say for men, unfortunately, you've been dealt an unfair hand. And the only way that we're going to, fix that is to, you know, being vulnerable and saying, Jay, I'm not feeling good, and actually being honest and real about it instead of hiding. And
Yeah.
I hope that it's an invitation to say, I need some help because we all do. We all need
Mhm.
help. We all
Oh
do.
yeah.
We cannot do it alone.
No. If you say you can and you don't need help, you're lying to yourself for sure. I mean, it's really apparent to other people who know we all need help, but you're lying to yourself. And there is help out there, and I could not agree more with the the men in our lives and the men in your life. Honestly, they just need to open up, and we're here to listen, right? Like,
Mhm,
it's just taking that step to be vulnerable and speaking your truth can change a life for sure.
mhm.
So, thank you so much for saying that, and thank you so much for being with me today. This has been an amazing conversation, and I am so grateful to know you and to have met you,
Well,
and I know
well,
we'll
I'm
be
so
seeing.
glad I got to meet you too.
Thank you. I know we'll be seeing each other in the future because we kind of hang out in a little bit of the same circles. And I absolutely love that. Shout out
Yeah.
to Sherry for introducing us. I even have her
Yes.
little thing right here.
I've
Shout
got
out
her
to
piece.
Sherry. Be kind, people. So, yeah, I've had Sherry on the
Yes.
podcast too. So, absolutely love her.
Yeah. She's so
So,
sweet.
thank you so much,
Yes.
Jaylene. It's been a pleasure. And I hope
Thank
we can
you.
do this again sometime soon. And I hope you keep writing.
Yes. Yes, I haven't written another book, but I always write for Toastmasters, so I just wrote about Japan.
Nice.
I just love creative writing, and I just enjoy that creative outlet. I'm not a painter by any means, but I enjoy just creating with words, and that's something I don't think I'll ever give up because I learned that late in life too.
Mhm.
I like writing, so
Yeah.
everything doesn't this 40 under 40 is wonderful, but a lot of things can happen after you're 40 too.
Oh, I hope so. I'm way past 40-ish. I just want to say one more thing too. You got to
Yeah.
buy this book because I'm going to give
Yes.
you one little one. This was my absolute favorite one. I have to find it here. Sorry.
And if people read the book, if they wouldn't mind leaving a review on Amazon because that really helps me as well as
Yes.
a writer. Um because reviews go a long way. And when I apply for different festivals, I know they're going to look at, what people say about the reviews. So if you've read it and you feel that you want to give me a 5-star, then I would be open to that. Ooh, there's the
Don't
perfectionist
even
in me.
suggest it. Just request it.
Suggested 5 stars. Okay.
That's right. And you know what? Same goes for this podcast too. The more people follow me, like, and share, it just gets this stuff out to more people who need this information. So I could
That's right.
not agree more. And I wanted to show this little, you have the most beautiful little drawings. I don't know, in just speaking to Treaty 6 and Indigenous people and some of the symbolism that they have in their realm. And I love it. Who is the illustrator on this?
So Chris Chapak, he is an artist out of Saskatoon, and I started following him I actually wanted Alex Janvier. Let's be honest. I
Yeah.
really wanted him because I saw him in 2018. I have one of his paintings, and I'm
Nice.
in love with his artwork. Anyway, couldn't get that to happen. And so I started following Chris Chapak, and I loved that he sort of paired like a little bit of story with the
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah.
And so I asked him if he would draw 6 paintings for my book. And so I drove out to Saskatoon. I met him in person. We did the deal, and I'm so glad I did because I'm an art lover, and I believe art should be everywhere, just not on a museum wall, and it should be accessible to everyone. And so
Yeah.
I just his paintings really resonated with the message of each chapter, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to have art in my book, and I'm so thankful that he said yes. And he's an amazing artist, and I'm so thankful I got to work with him. And um
That's
I
awesome.
just yeah.
Well, I will post his name too in the show notes, and all of your links will be in the show notes, so people can reach out to you and chat with you. And I
Yeah.
hope they go and buy the book because it's not a long read, but it is
It's like
very
46
impactful.
pages.
Exactly, and so it's very impactful. So go out and get it, people. And yeah, thanks so much, Jalene. I hope you
Okay,
have a
thanks,
wonderful
Krista.
week.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Becoming Sound. If this episode resonated with you in some way, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps to get this information out to more people who may need it. If you have a sec, I would love a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. While you're there, hit the 5-star rating and give me a review. When you're scrolling, follow me on my social platforms, and I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Have a fabulous day, lots of love and gratitude from me. Please note, the views, information, and opinions expressed during the Becoming Sound podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved. The content of this podcast is to educate, inform, and for entertainment purposes only. This podcast series and the content presented does not constitute for medical or other professional advice or services. If you are in crisis or in need of help, please contact your medical or professional provider.